I mean, if you're a Bears fan, you're thinking forward progress. Come on.
10, 219, 219.
Forward Progress, a Chicago Bears podcast with Dan Bernstein and Matt Abaticola on 312 Sports.
We are awarding you Forward Progress, a Chicago Bears podcast here on 312 Sports. The 11-5 Bears head into Week 18 with a chance for a little bit of payback. And I don't know how much it means to Ben Johnson to do that. That's sort of the question I have in my head is how salty is he? How petty, in a good way, is Ben Johnson? I think we might learn that a little bit based on where his foot is on the accelerator this week. And I'm not saying good or bad. I just think we're gonna learn whether or not he's got it in him to make a little bit of a statement when he can against his former employer.
What would your guess be? Because I have my opinion on it.
My guess would be, and I guess this is a cop-out, and you can call it that if you want. I think he absolutely has it in his heart, but his mind, his head knows better, and he has such discipline that even though I think he would love to avenge this particular loss in totality, he would stop short of anything that would irresponsibly expose his players to injury.
Okay, well, I agree with that, but I think you've answered the question because in his heart, you said that he wants revenge. And yes. I do believe that's true. Mm-hmm. So in his disciplined nature, it's not going to come out verbally, and I don't think he's going to give some kind of message to the team beforehand that, hey, we need to, I want this win after they booed him and the way they treated him in Detroit going back for the first time as the Bears head coach, which was completely ridiculous and stupid. I think he wants it, but he's not going to be that rah-rah guy that says we need to go out and win this game to avenge that loss, to avenge your coach. But he 100% wants to have a victory to shove it up their asses. All right, and I think given the opportunity, without endangering a player, he's going to do everything within his power to make that happen.
Okay, let me ask you this.
This is a dude who took his shirt off in the locker room to celebrate so Chicago fans could get hot dogs. You think he doesn't want to put 60 on these motherfuckers? He is going to do everything possible to make that happen.
Let's envision a world in which there is a way to do it more saucily or incrementally, and a way to make the point without having to put 60 on them. And it would be play design. Mm-hmm. It would be picking a spot for a play where he's known as that guy. Mm-hmm. And whether it is something like Stumble Bum or any other of the named plays that he's had, is he putting something in? Not saying he's going to spring it, but I promise you it's being practiced right now.
Yeah, because given the situation of the season and where, the Lions being eliminated, you could really shove it. You could really stick it to your old team from a defensive standpoint. Like if he was a defensive guy, you could do that, go all out and go for the shutout. That would be the ultimate embarrassment for this team. Now the Bears don't have that defense. He's not a defensive guy, so that's not a possibility. I think what you said is you nailed it. And I 100% believe and agree that there is a play that is going to be, if executed and successful, is going to be the highlight for the NFL Sunday.
If they get the look.
Yes.
And I can't for the life of me, and I love this. I don't know that I've been in a situation before where I am, and I'm not reporting this, but I promise you that somewhere in this week he's got a cookie in there. He's got a little Christmas cookie, a little New Year's thing in there. I think he's got enough respect and he is close enough friends with Dan Campbell that he doesn't want to embarrass Dan Campbell directly. I don't think it's necessarily personal. Mm-hmm. But even from a snarky, cheeky football perspective, I'd love to know what it's going to be. Is it, we've seen Cole Kmet throw the ball. What else is on our list here of what could be in the bag somewhere? We've seen flea flicker. We've seen all sorts of formational stuff that he's tried. We haven't seen that bully formation, the lizard, the reptile that he borrowed from Greg Roman. We haven't seen that again. But I'm just wondering, what would be something that would make a statement to the Lions organizationally or to their fans? What would be something that shows that little wink, that gotcha?
Yeah, no. I think you're spot on with it. That there's something there, but that he has installed, and I can't wait to see what it's going to be. Again, given but here's the thing though, and it's
Darnell Wright.
Oh yeah, that's a possibility. If there's a certain deep in the red zone situation possibility there.
Talked about him as an athlete,
and we know that there was at one point where we saw offensive linemen receiving catches, correct?
Well, he had passes. Last year was Sewell.
Yeah, last year it was Sewell, but I think even earlier in this year, they were throwing passes to offensive linemen, I think, during practice or at some point.
Yes, all of them, because he wanted to see who had good hands. And they've had all kinds of active. Daniel Hardy was a blocker last week. So it shouldn't surprise us at all if some people are eligible or people have the opportunity. He's been dropping all kinds of breadcrumbs of that. It's for all these guys, especially the mad scientists. It's not if they have it ready to go. Mm-hmm. They're all loaded. It's just when. I don't know.
When you said earlier too that he's not taking it personal, how could you not?
Well, from Campbell himself, I don't think there's bad blood between the two.
Oh no, I don't think there's bad blood at all. But there's no way he's not taking this personal. He got booed, and players participated and were active in making sure the crowd was booing, and then they go and they put 52 points on him. That's like, hey, yeah, I know you were the great offensive mind, you were the great play caller for this team, and you were the hottest commodity on the coaching, coaching interviews, mm-hmm. And here's what we did without you. We put 52 points on you. Without you, that's what we did. So there's no shot. He's a human being. There's no shot. Again,
okay.
It's a guy who took his shirt off in the locker room to celebrate a win. So he's definitely taking it personal. But I do agree with you because he is very disciplined and he's that steady Eddie guy. He's not going to do anything to jeopardize his players or the game plan or what they want to be successful in, for sure.
And I wonder what the conversations are like with Dennis Allen, who, by the way, was the subject of an interesting point that I think you made in DBU about the way that the coordinator press conferences are scheduled and what it allows them to do and avoiding accountability for the week before. This is really more, in large part, more of a Dennis Allen opportunity than it is Ben Johnson. Don't let them get 52 on you. They had double digits in every quarter.
Yeah,
every quarter.
They went 14-14, 10-14.
And usually these games, blowouts, you lose the fourth quarter. Because the game's over at that point, especially with the teams as evenly matched as they are in the NFL. Like an NFL blowout, you've already called off the dogs in the fourth.
Right.
So to even pummel them there, do it like that is pretty complete.
Yeah, and for the Lions game, Dan, they rushed for 177 yards. Jared Goff threw for 334. He was 23 of 28, average of 11.9, 5 touchdowns. He had a rating of 156. Was barely pressured, 0 sacks. Where Caleb Williams, he was sacked 4 times. And it was interesting, too, to look at the offense for the Bears, too, in that game and how different it is today. Colson Loveland had 1 catch on 2 targets. Or was it the other way around? I think maybe it was Luther Burden Let me see here. Let me just pull it up real quick. I have it right here. Colson Loveland had 0 catches on 1 target. Luther Burden had 2 targets and 1 catch for 5 yards. And just to see the difference of where that is now for this team and for the progression of Loveland and of Burden. And remember, early in the season, Ben Johnson was talking about how the tight ends weren't even out there to catch balls. He specifically said they weren't even part of the passing plan. They were just there to be extra blockers.
Well, he didn't say it quite so dismissively.
No, not dismissively, but that clear, though. It was that
right,
clear.
but he pumped them up by saying they're playing a very important role in what we're doing, just not catching the ball.
Which is, very important to what they're doing now.
Sure. Maybe, and like I say, a lot of his stuff is long game. A lot of his stuff is, what am I setting up? What am I putting on tape? And I haven't gone back and watched the film of the first meeting between these teams, but they're clearly both different teams that have gone in opposite directions since that week 2 outcome.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure, absolutely.
And it's, for Allen, we're at the time of year 2 where we're beginning, now that the first round of like the in-season coaching firings has happened, and we're reading a lot of the coverage of, say, the Giants are saying that, Mike Kafka is going to interview for the interim job that he holds now. He'll get a chance, and we're starting to see these other names. Are the Falcons going to make a move? Are the Browns going to make a move? It's pretty obvious that the Cowboys are getting rid of Matt Eberflus with Jerry Jones, admitting publicly that was a mistake. The one and dones. The speculation now, and reasonably so, is that Pete Carroll tried to do the comeback thing, and maybe it's just not happening for him. Aaron Glenn, the Jets have gotten worse. There aren't really any signs that that's going to get any better. There's always the possibility of one and dones there. I'm not hearing Dennis Allen's name. I have not heard at least in the head coaching level round, it's not time yet. It's not time for Declan Doyle. We haven't had the rehabilitation yet. I don't think the Bears defense has performed quite well enough, despite leading the league in turnovers. Takeaways. Everybody knows that turnover margin is, if anything, making the defense look better than it otherwise would. And I think there are smart people around the NFL that aren't necessarily saying, I hire Dennis Allen, I'm going to lead the league in turnover margin.
Right.
So
correct.
I think we'll have to wait until the next round, meaning once the head coaches are in place and once the staffs are being assembled, that maybe Al Harris is going to be a coordinator, right? Maybe somebody else gets a promotion, but we're not at the point where any Bears are going to be poached to be someone else's head coach right now.
I really don't believe that's the case, too, so I agree with you on that. And Dennis Allen, the defense certainly isn't playing at a level where people would want to bring him back through as a head coach. But I do think Eric Bieniemy and Al Harris will get interviews. I don't necessarily think that, unless they have some kind of fantastic interview and really stand out in the process compared to the other individuals that are brought into whatever teams that might be, I do think they'll get those interviews.
What about Antoine Randall L., the wide receivers coach?
He very well too could. I mean, he's the assistant head coach also on the team, and I know he's a very vocal leader, and he takes a lot of that leadership aspect off of Ben Johnson's plate, because I don't really think that is something Ben Johnson wants to do when he's more interested in doing other things as far as preparation is concerned. So from that football rah-rah type approach, and he's great at what he does, obviously, and don't take that away.
As far as we know, yeah.
As far as we know, yes, but he could get an interview as well too. But I agree. I think I would be surprised if anyone is taken off the staff this year. But you never know, Dan. I mean, I have them winning the Super Bowl, and if that happens, maybe somebody is poached.
True. It's absolutely true. And I think that some of it also, when it comes to interviews, is going to be dictated by how the Rooney Rule allows for some opportunities, and that you wouldn't otherwise have. And you might get in a room and say, "Boy, I'm glad that we had this consideration." And this guy's exposed me to some ideas or some possibilities I didn't think existed. And very often what can happen is, just because you're interviewing for a job doesn't mean you get that job. sometimes just getting in the building and meeting people and having the stuff around the interview allows for other chances, other exposure. Say, hey, you know what? This might open up, or we've got this possibility, and you might lose people in ways that you wouldn't otherwise expect.
Well, and also too, that could also lead to guys talking around the league, and you interview for a job you don't get, but you like, hey, you were a surprise candidate, and maybe you were the second guy on the list. That word gets around, or maybe you were the third guy, where another team wouldn't even have considered you.
Of course,
but, owners
that's
talk
good.
and friends talk and GMs. Oh no, that's great. Yeah, and so maybe a GM who's like wouldn't have an Al Harris or an Antoine Randall L on his list. All of a sudden, hears from other people and says, "Oh, maybe I should take a look at this guy," or maybe it's not this cycle, it's the next cycle, and he's higher on that list, or he's actually a target where he wouldn't have been before.
And that doesn't even take in the effect of the various agents and
and all the work they do behind the scenes.
The agencies that you may not be represented by one of the high-powered people, but after one round of interviews, it might just be that somebody with more power, more exposure, and more phone numbers and connections says, all right, I want you as part of my stable right now, or in less crass terms than that, and says, represent you. And then you're just in play differently because you're better connected.
And I think Declan Doyle is a guy who's loyal to Ben Johnson, but unless Ben Johnson gives him opportunities to call plays, how do you grow in that dynamic?
He's so young. What is he?
28? He's very young, but that doesn't matter now. I mean, if you're age doesn't matter anymore in the NFL as far as coaching is.
No. I'm saying he's got a lot of time. Is what I'm saying.
But
he's
but what I'm saying with that dynamic, I mean, Ben Johnson's not going to give up play calling to someone, even a guy like Declan Doyle. So how do you grow your resume with those opportunities? Because no one's going to hire him as a coordinator without calling plays.
Right. Yeah, he's 30, by the way. He just turned 30.
Oh, he's definitely old enough to get a job somewhere. Or maybe I don't know. I just don't know how that works when your head coach is the guy. He's not going to give up that opportunity.
I think it's preseason, or he'll give them the chances when they're in practices, when they're doing situational stuff where they say, look, I'm putting this much time on the clock, and we've got officials here, and we're treating this like an end game situation. You call them. I mean, there's ways to get reps, but there's some teams where all the assistants will do it together, or they'll watch film together and compete. Mm-hmm. You almost play it like a parlor game.
Oh, sure.
Where here's the situation. Everybody write out your play calls.
Right.
And then they talk and they compare, and there's ways to simulate all this stuff now that helps people develop that sense. But there's nothing like real time. There's nothing with dealing all the stimuli and talking to everybody. But I'll say from the limited exposure that we've had to Declan Doyle, I've been pretty impressed.
Yeah,
he seems
for sure.
He seems on top of it. He seems prepared to answer questions, and he seems like a good talker. He seems like he's willing to explain things. And at this stage, there's not a whole lot to ask from somebody in his position who is working for the guy.
Yeah, and maybe next year when the Bears are defending their Super Bowl championship and they have the number 1 seed wrapped up after Week 15, maybe he gets the call games in 16 and 17, 18.
Listen to you. I like the lean in. I do. I know you do. I like the fact that you've made your decision, and now all things are based off that. Well, let me then, as long as we're having this discussion, take this in another direction when it comes to the coaching searches and beyond.
Okay.
I am mystified on a lot of levels with what we learned yesterday about Troy Aikman and this role that he's apparently going to have with the Dolphins. Mm-hmm. So tell me if I'm crazy here, but there was what I know, Pro Football Talk referred to it as a coordinated leak of the hiring of Troy Aikman by the Dolphins as a consultant for their general manager search. Mm-hmm. And all of these reports hit right around the same time from the usual suspects, from Schefter, from Ian Rappaport. So this was a rollout of this news by somebody. I don't know if it's Stephen Ross. I don't know if it's Aikman's people. I don't know if they're doing it together and having one little release / leak to all the newsbreakers. But Rappaport said Mike McDaniel is safe in his job as head coach. Then Schefter said it remains undecided. So there's a lot I'm trying to figure out here. First of all, wouldn't the bosses at ESPN have some concerns about your number one analyst doing this and being in large part responsible for the hiring of a general manager by a team on which he's commenting? Like, that already is in and of itself an issue. And then thinking, well, wait, it reflects immediately on the coach, because part of the interview with the GM, when you do it inverted like this, that might be the first question. Are you bringing a coach? What do you think of our coach? So it's got to be weird and uncomfortable. And in some ways, I don't know if it's unprofessional, but there's got to be some sort of ethical conflict with your coaching staff of saying, yeah, we got this, we're going to go to the broadcaster, and rather than just describing what he thinks in a game about Caleb Williams or whoever it may be, we're going to ask him what he thinks about who your boss should be and whether or not you should remain employed. I don't know. It's the entire thing seems like there'd be a lot of corners cut or compromises made or bending over backwards to allow for Troy Aikman to have this kind of responsibility running an NFL franchise and also having the position that he has. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy, and I think the argument you make and the points you lay out are pretty valid, and they're reasonable.
But
I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't see it as that significant of a deal. I see it as my initial thought when I saw the story was, all right, here's another guy that wants to be a jock sniffer and bring in a 3-time Super Bowl champion, one of the most recognized faces and voices for the NFL currently as your number one guy on ESPN. And you're bringing him in the building not to evaluate your current situation, including your current head coach. I think he's just bringing my initial take was, again, after the jock sniffer thing, it was what relationships does he have that I don't have that maybe he could open doors or coordinate things easier in this search? Because they already have Dan Marino as a consultant on staff. Now, I mean,
that I get. He's in charge of being Dan Marino.
I know, yeah. but he's. I mean, you're talking about a big name. He's also a big name. Doesn't have the championships that Troy Aikman does. But if you're talking about building relationships or opening doors or extending some opportunities that maybe wouldn't be there without those two guys, that's all I see it as. I don't see it as being a detrimental or critical of the current staff or the situation. I view it more as an opportunity to create relationships that maybe wouldn't necessarily be as easy or even be there without him.
All right, well then let me just say this though. If I were Aikman's boss at ESPN, I'd want to have a conversation. And I don't know what his contract language is like, but I know I'd want to have a conversation about what his ultimate goals are.
Why is that though? Because explain that to me. Because I mean, his job is to do the Monday night game with Joe Buck. That's his responsibility
at the moment.
Do your job, and at the moment.
At the moment, I would like to know if this is a first step toward a next act as a team executive. Is this something he wants to do more of? And I think that I would, and I know the lines of journalistic integrity are blurred at best and cease to exist at worst, but there's a lot of trust. And trust that I have as a viewer. I like Aikman's work. I really do. No, I think he's good at his job. But I think if this is something, if you want to do this, if you want to either be another Bill Polian or Ernie Accorsi, it's just a little bit like what we went through with Brady. But
I was going to say, is this based on the Brady situation?
It's not, because Brady hadn't established himself as a trustworthy, objective broadcaster.
He still has
built their brand. No, maybe not. I think he's getting better.
He's getting better, yeah.
But Aikman's got a lot of equity built up in his objectivity. So you could be compromising or cashing in some of that if he's tiptoeing into this stuff. And I just think you've got to be pretty careful about having some of these questions. Well, why is he saying that? Or what does he know that somebody else doesn't? When that director cuts to a coach and he's got a thought, and we're seeing it retroactively now. Because now I'm noticing that Pro Football Talk went back to awful announcing and was getting some specific comments that Aikman made about the Dolphins, criticizing McDaniel's fourth quarter strategy, saying, well, now they want to call timeouts. This is a ridiculous fourth quarter, as ridiculous as I've seen in a long time.
Oh,
bizarre,
yeah.
remember?
We played those highlights, yes.
Yes, a bizarre last few series. It's hard to understand the philosophy or what they're trying to do. And now we're going back and saying, well, the guy with these opinions is now going to have some authority over whether or not that coach has a job.
And I wonder, though, I would love to know the timeline. I don't think we'll ever will. Was that, and that was just a couple weeks ago, was that game the impetus to say, hey, maybe we should, take a look to Troy Aikman, hear his thoughts out and see what he had to say, because he was very critical about our team, and
right?
He's got some experience. But if that's where it started, though, Dan, and it wasn't before that, if it was before that, yes, then I understand where you're coming from, and there is some ethical boundaries there that are being crossed. That if these conversations started before Aikman got really... Because he went in really hard.
I know.
On that game. So if these conversations started before that, then yeah, there's ethical boundaries that are crossed, and it's probably something to look at even deeper. But if that was used as a starting point to say, hey, did you hear what Aikman had to say about us last, or they're watching the games or hearing the games, or I'm sure it was brought to social media and people within the organization heard it, then maybe this is a guy that we could, hey, pick up the phone and give Troy Aikman a call. Why did you say that about the fourth quarter? What were you seeing? And then maybe a conversation took place from there, and it was like, hey, maybe we could bring this guy in as a consultant. And
but they're talking about GM. That's it's not a coaching conversation. They're talking about the guy to run. And if it's Stephen Ross doing this, if you're talking to another goofy billionaire, that there's in large part, there's a lot of things about which a lot of these billionaires are just plain stupid.
Yeah.
And we see it all the time in sports. All the time, that they want to rub elbows with somebody famous and they want to have these people around. Stephen Ross is one of these guys too. We know that.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I initially thought the jock sniffer type thing, just get this guy in. But I think if Mike McDaniel is going to be fired, he would be fired with or without Troy Aikman being a consultant.
That may be, but it's still the appearance of his, and the fact that I know, and I'm not naive enough to think that there aren't all kinds of conversations that happen, and maybe whether it's Aikman or Collinsworth or anybody, somebody might say, hey, what do you think? And there are personal relationships and there are opinions given. But that's a far cry from an actual consulting contract. That I get it, that for Bill Polian and Ernie Accorsi and the animal that lives on his head and any of these other people who've set up sort of a late career, post-career cottage industry as one of those guys, you're not talking about one of the residents of a bully pulpit of broadcasting.
So a third thought I had, Dan, was maybe this was the initial step in looking at Troy Aikman as a possible general manager.
Exactly. But that's why he's got to have a conversation with his current employer.
Yeah, I get it. But because to me, the Tom Brady, regardless of how much equity he had built up and experience and years of doing it, the Tom Brady thing opened the door for something like this to happen. So you're going to let Tom Brady be an owner and a broadcaster, then you have to let Troy Aikman be a general manager and a broadcaster as well, too.
That was part of my concern about that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think that it starts to look a bit unseemly when you have
like
people on TV
earlier,
pulling the strings for some of this stuff.
I agreed with what you were saying. I understand it. I didn't agree. I completely understand what you're saying, but and you make a very good point for it. And it does seem a little shady. There's that possibility there, but I also I'm going to lean on the fact that I think it's just an opportunity for Stephen Ross to rub shoulders on a closer level with Troy Aikman, who had some harsh comments about his team.
Isn't elbows?
You rub
right?
elbows. You rub elbows. Yeah. Yeah, you do. You rub elbows and wieners, not shoulders.
They're not rubbing wieners.
They're not. Okay,
That's a different story.
Oh, okay. It's not this one? Okay, shoot.
No, different one.
Let me take that off my notes. Not rubbing wieners. All right. Got it. Got it
Yeah,
down.
elbows.
Thank you.
Yeah, elbows.
Elbows, not wieners.
Sharp elbows. Yes. Okay, good. Yes. So that's set. Wieners is right out.
Stupid things get it. It's so quick. Like the trap door to stupidity is like it's always underneath us. It's always underneath.
Under these shows,
Yes.
if it's not even really, it's a trap door, but it's even like the hook and eye, the screw that holds it in is barely there.
Oh, but the bad part is that like we do it to ourselves. It's not even like there's some villain hiding, lurking in the shadows that pushes the button. It's just we do it.
I want it always there. That's ideal. It needs.
No,
to
you're right.
stay
I
that
said
way.
rub shoulders. That was wrong. It's rub elbows and not wieners. Okay.
Well, you added that part. Okay.
We got it. Wasn't that always the saying? I thought that was always the saying.
That was the idiom.
Yeah, I'm gonna. We go to the social events. I can rub elbows and wieners. Okay, I guess not.
Go to that golf outing? Yep. Real good wiener rubbing opportunity. What'd you say? Nothing.
You meant shoulders, right?
Oh, yeah.
No, elbows.
No, I forgot. Elbow. Yes, elbows. Thank you.
Anyway,
elbows.
so yeah, I get what you're saying. I do. And you know, part of your argument is convincing, and it's like hey, there's an opportunity here where this looks kind of shady. So, yeah, I would love to know the timeline, how this all came about, when did the interest in Troy Aikman's opinion on your general manager, when did that come to light? When did you say, hey, this is a good idea for us to move forward with this guy as a consultant? I would love to know that. And hopefully one of the reporters figures that out and gets that information for us.
Well, because it's also, as we were mentioning previously, about the agent class, and it really was for the Bears, I think, and with what we learned about Trace Armstrong with the Eberflus hiring, that was one step in learning about the power of certain agents, and especially when the owner publicly does this, even locally, it makes you think like, well, why don't you know football? Why do you need this?
Right.
Every time we would bring it up about the Bears, it's like, here you are, this ancient football family that talks about your roots to the beginning of the league. You built the league, and you don't know anything about football. And you've got to call
anybody in football?
Anybody. And you don't have, and this was the same team, remember, that had to pay $500,000 to a search firm to find the assistant general manager in their own division to hire. You know, that was the Jerry Angelo hire, and then it was Ernie Accorsi and the roadkill on his head, and Bill Polian. So anytime you just think like, why? Well, why do you need this?
Well, because it just shows the lack of football wisdom and relationships that Michael and George have had over the last
And then we
decades.
learn about that's why that vacuum is filled by Trace Armstrong. Why they had to outsource the hiring of their general manager and at the time that idiot coach
Right.
that they brought to the press conference. And he gave us the stupid-ass hits principle. And then he was asked directly about, did the fact you have the same agent have anything to do with this? And they looked at each other, you want to answer? And that's when you knew this thing was doomed.
Right.
Sure. We called it. The Eberflus shit, we called it after one press conference. Everybody knew it sucked. And now Jerry Jones is even saying, yeah, I shouldn't have hired this guy. And meanwhile,
no shit, Jerry.
Meanwhile, my powdered toast man figurine is still not in my possession.
I asked you if you want me to work on that for you. I'll get it done.
Yes, actually, if you're offering,
yeah, I've offered weeks ago.
They've got my personal effects that they never gave back.
We'll get it handled.
They took everything in my locker, or it's still there, locked up in that locker, and the powdered toast man figurine was in there. I've got stuff there that they never gave back and never offered to give back.
Yeah, we'll get that stuff back. So then you can put powdered toast man right behind you on your shelf.
He's missing. I'll put him right next to my first collegiate hit. I'll give him I'll give him an honored spot.
I think actually I have a better spot. See? Put him inside the the jaws of the shark.
I could do that. See, Atlantic Coast Conference, official ball,
Yep.
ACC.
The
And
stamp.
it's Duke 14, North Carolina 5, 9/28/1990.
Sweet.
Line drive, one hopper, right through the pitcher.
You
And
kill
I
him?
stole second, and I
Oh,
was
nice.
and I scored.
Wow.
Yeah, but the ball, a teammate actually, because I got on base, the next guy fouled it into the woods.
So went and got it.
My roommate actually went into the pine forest, found it.
Kind of minor or kind of college park you playing at where you're in the woods?
Well, down the lines. Yeah, it wasn't really, we didn't play in the varsity field.
Oh, okay.
No, we didn't play this. It was a decent field.
All
I think
right.
it was
Well,
called
yeah.
Irwin Field.
Sounds like
I
something
don't
we
know,
played in at 10U in the woods.
It's club ball.
Okay, I got
Every once in a while you would play in a real stadium, and
Yeah.
it would be fun. But it's club ball. You play wherever you can find a place to play.
Hey, can I give you a couple little NFL notes here?
I want NFL notes and news and tidbits and nuggets.
One thing that we'll keep an eye on, even though I have no interest in the game, is Browns and Bengals, because, of course, Myles Garrett is half a sack away from tying the record, and he's one full sack away from breaking the record. They play the Bengals in Week 1. He did have 2 sacks in a Week 1 loss to the Bengals, so we're keeping an eye on that. And then I thought this was interesting. Justin Jefferson went out of his way with media to say that he would love to have J.J. McCarthy back as quarterback next year.
Why?
Why did he say it, or why did I find it interesting?
Why does he think that? Both.
Well, because his season was just shot to hell with injury this year and poor play, so they're going to give him a full opportunity to, I think, come back and try to prove himself. But first of all, I don't believe Justin Jefferson.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, why
Yeah,
wouldn't he
just,
want a
like,
better quarterback?
Don't believe that at all. But I didn't think that not having J.J. McCarthy was even an option. Like, I haven't read or heard anything out of Minnesota that they're considering moving on from J.J. McCarthy after one bad season.
I don't know if you could, because you had Daniel Jones there, you had Sam Darnold there,
Right, and you said both you guys can
for
kick
this
rocks.
guy.
Yeah.
and you would already be done. I mean, that somebody'd have to get fired.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I would think KOC might be on the hook for that, right? Because that had to be his call about who he was going to use as quarterback.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
Anywho.
that's interesting. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't believe him,
Oh, I don't believe him for 1 second.
because I would say that if in his position, you'd want somebody who is do a better job to get you the ball and
Do a better
you
job of throwing the ball to you.
to allow you to affect games.
So,
by
as a wide receiver,
catching.
what's the most important part of your game? Probably having a quarterback who can throw me the ball.
Yeah, having the ball. How do you get the ball as a wide receiver? Someone throws it to me. Ergo,
The quarterback, basically.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right.
You would
Well,
want
sweet.
somebody good. Somebody.
All right. So,
that's
hey,
good.
let me
Yeah.
ask you this next question.
Yes.
What is happening on Sunday around 6:30?
Around 6:30. Well, the good news is on Sunday, at some point well before 6:30, maybe even around 3 or so, there's going to be a live link that is going to be up in the live section of Forward Progress's YouTube page.
And that's important to notice. The YouTube, you have to go to the live tab. When you go to a YouTube channel, there's different sections on top. There's different in the tab. You have to go to the live tab
For our post game.
for our post-game show. Yes.
The link will be live, and then you can get in there and hang out and watch the game and chat with each other. And then we will join in immediately when the game ends. I'll be right here, and we will have our thoughts on not just Bears and Lions, but obviously we'll have the Philadelphia result at that point. We will know what the path to a title looks like
Yes.
at that
We'll have
point.
that for you. Yep.
We will have the Bears Super Bowl path laid out at that point, and we will talk about everything. And we'll look at, hope the Bears make it through the injury free, and that they can be all rested up and ready to go to take a run at this with whatever this defense can be, whatever Dennis Allen thinks he can get out of these guys at this point. And it's a subject for another time, whether or not Dennis Allen is going to return as defensive coordinator next year. Is that 100% a given?
God, that's funny. I wouldn't even thought that until you just asked that question, like why it wouldn't be. But I guess it depends. I think it really depends how the season ends.
I think it depends who's available too, and it depends.
Yeah, I think how the season ends for sure.
We don't know if he was Ben Johnson's first choice.
Yeah. Although he seemed like he was all in on the decision to bring him in, given his head coaching. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I never even thought of that until you just asked that question. So yeah, let's see how the season ends after the Super Bowl, and we'll see how the defense plays through the Super Bowl as the Bears win. Yeah, I'll open up the chat for Sunday's game around 3:00. So if you're listening to the show now and you want to be a part of that, jump on in at 3 p.m. Jump on in.
Jump on in.
As old TV would say.
So looking forward to that. Can't wait. And we'll put the bow on a Bears regular season and lay out the look at the playoffs. So make sure you join us on this very show. This show is Forward Progress, a Chicago Bears podcast on the 312 Sports Network.
Forward progress has stopped. 10, 219, 219.
Forward Progress, a Chicago Bears podcast with Dan Bernstein and Matt Abatacola on 312 Sports.